Hey, I'm Allison from Learning at the Primary Pond. I'm a literacy specialist, and in this video, I'm going to explain why prompt writing is not as easy as it might seem for kinder, first, and second grade students, as well as share 5 tips that will really make a big difference in helping your students respond to prompts. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to hit subscribe and then also hit the bell so that you get notified and don't miss out on any of the new videos that I post about teaching literacy in K-2. All right, so first of all, what is prompt writing? Prompt writing is when you just have students respond to something specific. So like, I don't know, like write about a time when you felt sad, or write about your summer, or, write about what happens in the season of autumn, something like that. It could be narrative, opinion, or informational. Write about your favorite book, something like that. This is in contrast to more open-ended or workshop writing, where you might say, okay, we're all going to write nonfiction books, and the kids get to choose. Do they want to write about an animal? Do they want to write about a sport? Do they want to write about a singer? Right? So that's a little bit different. With prompt writing, either type of writing can be challenging for kids, right? It seems kind of straightforward to us, like, hey, just like answer this question and that's it. But the reality is that when kids are young, like in the K-2 grades, which is what we're talking about, there's so much that they have to figure out. They have to figure out what they want to say. They have to figure out how to spell the words. For a little ones, how to space between words, how to construct a sentence. There's just a lot going on. And so you might find that the responses that your kids give are very short. And you're like, that's not enough. Or you might find that sometimes you do an example and then they basically do something very similar, practically copying your example. If either of these 2 things has happened to you, let me know in the comments. Just type yes if you've had your students either not write enough or basically copy your example. Again, just type yes in the comments so I know I'm not alone there. I would guess that it happens to most of us, right? Because as I said, responding to prompts, it's not as simple as it seems for our K-2 kiddos. So that being said, let's get into some tips that will help your students be successful when they're responding to prompts. All right, tip number 1 is to really think about the level of specificity with the prompts that you give. So here are 2 examples. You could tell your students, okay, write about a birthday party that you attended. Or you could tell them, write about a special celebration that you attended. With both of those prompts, the birthday party one could be fine, but maybe some of your kids haven't attended birthday parties, or they haven't attended one recently. When you just say a special celebration, that leaves it more open, right? It could be, something special at their church, or it could be, I don't know, a parent's anniversary or any type of celebration. It opens the door to much more. So while you don't want your prompts to be wide open, you do want to give kids some flexibility, especially if it's narrative prompts, so that they will have something to write about. Because if you get way too specific, it could try to ask kids to pull on a life experience that they just don't have. And sometimes kids' life experiences, or the things that they haven't had experience with in life, can surprise us. So I think it's just better to go a little bit broader as opposed to get super, super narrow. Okay, number 2 is modeling. Let me tell you a story about me many moons ago. I was finishing up my student teaching experience, and I had this final project that I had to do. The kids were going to be doing research on, I think it was different animals or something, and then I had this cute little writing craft project, but it involved some writing, and they were in 2nd grade. And I remember I was so excited about this, and it was a cute project, but I explained what I wanted them to do, and it was basically prompt writing, and then I asked them to go do it, and they didn't do anything. They didn't really know what to do. So in that moment, I learned how important it was to model. I hadn't done an example for them because I was worried that they would copy. And you had some kids that were copying a little bit more than others, but at the same time, because I hadn't provided that example, done that modeling, they just were not able to do it. So learned my lesson there, and now I know that you got to model. And will some of your kids copy at first? Maybe. You can take down the sample while they're actually working. That helps with it. You can also like have them tell you what they're going to write about or tell a partner so that their ideas, their topics are at least a little unique. And you can also really praise those kiddos who are unique and come up with their own original topics. Really praise them in front of the group to emphasize that that's what you're looking for. So anyway, modeling is essential. Think aloud. This is what I'm doing to plan. This is what I'm doing to write my first sentence. I know I need to add more details. So not only what you're writing, but also like why you're adding different things. That modeling and that thinking aloud is so important. All right, tip number 3 is to use some type of graphic organizer. So it can seem like when you think about, I don't know, like kids making a little book or like a more in-depth writing piece, it can seem like a writing prompt should be easier to plan, but the reality is that, again, writing is challenging for our K-2 kiddos, and so using a support like a graphic organizer can be extremely helpful and important for them to be successful. So this is just like this little prompt says, write about a time when you felt nervous, and then they write what happened first, next, then, and finally. They could also just draw pictures. This is kind of like a timeline organizer. This comes, by the way, from my differentiated writing prompts that are in the Learning at the Primary Pond TPT store. So again, they're called differentiated writing prompts. But anyway, you can provide them with some kind of graphic organizer. And again, you're going to want to model how to use the organizer and then how to turn it into actual writing. That step of from graphic organizer to writing can be tricky for kids. So make sure how to model that as well. All right, next up, when the kids are actually working on the prompt, I feel like it's very helpful to provide different options to differentiate. And you might just start by having all of the kids use a certain tool, but eventually I like to get to the point where like some kids get these supports and other kids get these supports. I don't want to overcomplicate it, but at the same time, some kids will need things like sentence starters. See how there's like a little prompt and then sentence starters to kind of help them organize and get started. And then some kids may not need that at all, right? Like they may be able to do the same prompt without the sentence starters. So give some of your kids this and other kids that. You can just talk to them about how different people need different things. Another thing that they might benefit from is this little self-assessment checklist. We're going to talk more about revising and editing in a second, but what it does is it's especially good for fast finishers or kids who maybe don't take their time because they fill out the prompt and then they're required to go back through and check off and look for all of these things. So this is one other option. Another option that you could consider for some or all of your kids is to use a word bank. So this prompt has words that the kiddos might use when they're responding to this particular prompt. This sheet also actually has sentence starters on it. So with the differentiated writing prompts that I'm showing you, you actually just print it out and you can choose, do you want the sentence starters? Do you want the word bank? Do you want the checklist? You just choose which one you want and print it, because I know it's time consuming to create these. So again, that's in my TPT store, but basically my point here is just use different supports, whether it's a word bank, sentence starters, assessment checklist, all of the above. Doesn't matter what level the kids are at, many of your students will still be able to benefit from these supports. Word banks and sentence starters are especially good for English language learners. All right. Last but not least is to build in revising and editing. So I feel like it's super important that kids get trained to eventually go over their writing for every single piece of writing that they do. Now, there are certain pieces where we're like getting it ready to publish and it's like, we put more time into the revising and editing process, but even if they're just responding to something simple like this, whether it's a checklist on the page or you give them a different checklist or you have them go over it with a partner, I feel like it's so important for them to understand that every time we write something, we look it over and we try to improve it. A lot of our kids, like I said, the writing process is hard for them. So then by the time they're done, they're like, woohoo, I'm done, time to move on. It is an accomplishment we want to celebrate, but at the same time, even if it's not till the next day, we want to have them come back to the piece and do some revising and editing. So my expectation for them, once I've taught the skills, is that every time they write a prompt, respond to a prompt, or write a piece, they come back, they revise, and they edit it. I feel like that's super important. All right, I hope this was helpful. I do actually have a full in-depth 1-hour training on teaching writing in kinder, first, and second grade. This one has like a certificate with professional development credits, It has a freebie, and the workshop itself is totally free. There's going to be a link that goes with this video, so you can look for that link, sign up for the workshop. Thanks so much for watching. Again, I hope this was helpful. Hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.